How my journey began. It's graduation time. Family is very important to me, including my puppies. The Marine Corps played a huge role in my life and allowed me to be ambitious, inspiring, a mentor, and achieve all of my goals. As a financial expert, I've received multiple awards, done various events as a guest speaker all over the U.S. with my platform of creating healthy financial habits, along with having my own business, all leading up to my show. Come along for the journey.
Hello, Gems, and Happy New Year! Welcome to our first show in 2021. For the month of January, our theme will be New Year, New You. Let's do our best to stay on track concerning our mind, body, finance, and reinvention of our business. For your first episode, we'll be discussing the importance of creating a positive mental health outlook. Before I introduce you to our guests, let's go over a few mental health statistics. According to the American Society, 40 million Americans take psychiatric medications. The three most common mental disorders in America, according to Access Community Health Network, are anxiety disorders, major depressive orders is number 2, and number 3 is bipolar disorders. According to Cigna, there was a 38% increase among teens ages 13 to 19 who are taking antidepressant medications from 2015 to 2019. Having a healthy mental outlook and attitude is key to navigating this coming year, no matter your age. Now that it's 2021, we are carrying a lot of 2020 with us into the new year. Next, I want to introduce you to our 2021 guest and our first guest of the new year. She's going to be providing us healthy mental tips and advice for us to follow through the year. Now, she is currently a high school counselor in Georgia. She has been a school counselor for the past 15 years at the elementary and high school levels. She has volunteered her time to programs for children of divorces, as well as family programs for juvenile offenders. She has presented at district-wide and state conferences on the topics of relational aggression, social emotional learning, trauma-informed practices, student anxiety, and emotional wellness. She has earned endorsements for culturally proficient coaching and leadership, teacher leadership. Her educational background includes her Bachelor's of Science in Child and Family Development, Master's in School Counseling, Education Specialist in Performance-Based Leadership, and she is currently pursuing her PhD in Counselor Education and Supervision. Now, she was born in Riley, Kansas. Her favorite mental health book is Mindset, The New Psychology of Success by Carol Dweck. For peace of mind, she enjoys getting out in nature, spending time with her family and pets. She currently resides in Georgia. Her passion remains promoting the importance of mental health as it affects every aspect of our lives. Gems, please welcome Miss Caroline Dodd to the show for our first 2020 episode. Caroline, thank you for coming here. How are you?
I'm well, Joel. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak about this important topic. I really appreciate having this platform to just speak to that because, as you mentioned, it is really an important topic to discuss. You talked about the statistics and how it's increased over the years. And, as a school counselor, I have seen that with my students and just with their families in general. So I appreciate it. And I just want to thank you for that. And, with just coming off the holidays, it is an important topic.
Right.
And at the beginning of the year, when we're setting new goals and we're looking for, what's ahead, I think this is a great topic to start the year off with.
Yes, absolutely. Making sure our mind is set and a healthy, positive outlet. So let's go ahead and get started. So we went through a lot in 2020, so much globally as a whole. So Caroline, can you walk us through these topics and how they directly relate to our mental health? So let's first start with the trauma, because I don't think a lot of people realize just how much trauma 2020 did for us.
Yeah, I know, I'm in the state of Georgia, and we shut down on March 13th. And when we were leaving our school buildings, when people were leaving their jobs, nobody could imagine how long we were going to be gone, and what all of this was going to mean for all of us individually or as families. And so we have to think of everything that has happened in 2020, from the shutdowns to quarantine, to COVID-19 and families being affected, medically, financially, as well as the civil unrest that was happening. And then, of course, it was an election year, and that brings up a lot of emotions for everybody. So that directly, whether we know it or not, it affects us. And that is trauma, whether we're seeing it on the news, whether we're reading it on social media. It's something that we're taking into our brain, into our minds, and that does create trauma for us. And, not all of us are equipped with those tools to be able to deal with that trauma. So it is important to be mindful of how we're taking that temperature check with ourselves. And then just coming off the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and thinking about, again, what families were not able to see each other because there were restrictions on travel, and just people being able to be together, face to face. And so it is important to think about everything that we went through. So sometimes in order to move forward, we have to look at the past.
Absolutely.
And kind of digest that, so then we can make those goals moving forward.
Absolutely. You mentioned a few things as far as isolation stress, because when everything shut down, we didn't have that immediate contact. I always say that human touch. That's one of the things that I miss so much, was the human touch. We were used to going to work every day and seeing our coworkers, whether it was high fives or Monday hugs, and now you're just at home and just being kind of quarantined and kind of locked in with, whether it was your family or even for the single people by yourself, how that even became its own type of trauma as well.
You're exactly right, Jewel. So, just again, like you said, that human touch, whether you're a touchy-feely person or not, again, just having that natural dialogue with somebody, going into a store and saying good morning to somebody. And so when we're under quarantine, whether it was at the beginning or whether you had to be quarantined again because of COVID exposure, again, you're isolated with yourself. You don't have somebody to bounce those ideas off with, to, even as much as some of us may dread going into work, those interactions with our coworkers allow us time to, again, express ourselves. Human touch is so important, like you said, because, again, we are human living beings, and that human touch means so much. And so, you saw during a lot of the quarantine and the pandemic, people getting animals, because, again, you need that physical touch, that connection with a person or an animal. So it is really important, again, to get back to that. Now that we're in 2021, we're still uncertain how this year may pan out, but starting again to create those routines with ourselves, because routine is really important when we're thinking about how we went from isolation back to the working world, to going out, and some of us have been shut back down again. So, and we have to work through that. So whether you're connecting with people virtually, or if you have a pet and connecting with nature, finding something to go ahead and center yourself.
And I know a lot of things that you probably are used to seeing as a school counselor, the emotional stress, not having a stable environment. Not everyone, being in, before COVID, had a stable environment, and now being maybe forced to even stay in that environment longer because you're not able to go out because we have all the restrictions and the deadlines, how that kind of played on our anger and our overall emotions. Can you talk to us a little bit about that as well? Because I know that was really, really key for a lot of people in 2021, just that stress.
Yeah, and so, that stress comes from a lot of different angles. Again, it comes from the isolation. It comes from financial. Some people were out of work. for a period of time. Some people lost their jobs because of what was going on, in the country. And then again, we go back to not just the pandemic, but again, the civil unrest that was happening in our country, and those emotions that it brought up within ourselves about what was happening in our world.
Right.
And then we again have the election, and that, that's can polarize people as well,
Right.
because of your belief systems and what you believe, and what you were wanting to happen with the election. And then of course now we've come off the holidays, and people have been again dealing with that too.
Still going through it, right?
And still going through it. It's a brand new year, and we also have the winter blues, with the sun setting earlier, it's cold. So again, we're isolating ourselves again. So, sometimes we have to be mindful of, again, those things that are happening in our world. And those things can bring up different feelings. And you may not even realize it. So I go back to that temperature check, like when we talk about anxiety, when we talk about depression, it's okay to feel anxious. It's okay to feel that sadness, but we have to look inside ourselves to say, okay, how long has this been going on? Is this something that I need to seek help for, or reach out to somebody, or to just talk to somebody? Because it's normal during the stress to have disrupted sleep. It's normal to stress eat. It's normal to have these feelings of anger, of sadness. And I think that's what we have to remember, to normalize those feelings. Don't think that anything is wrong with feeling angry or overwhelmed. But recognizing those feelings and what those feelings are and where those feelings are coming from, and moving through them. As a school counselor, as a parent, and I have to recognize what those anxieties that I had about whether it was sending my own child to school, whether it was dealing with my students, and the things that my students and families were going through. And so sometimes when we're anxious, that can come out as anger. And then we have people that may have mental health conditions that were exacerbated because of all these things. And you think when we were shut down, they didn't have access to the mental health. They didn't have access to go to the doctor to regulate some of these things. So it's building those, having those tools and building those skills so that we're able to deal with it. But the first step is recognizing that. So whether it's the anger, whether it's depression, anxiousness, and then again, I like to say, working through it, and pushing ourselves to recognize that we don't have to stay in this constant state. We can ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. Sometimes mental health has a stigma with certain people, with certain communities. So it's important to remember that it's okay to worry about your mental health because it affects so many other things in your life.
Yes, absolutely. And so you heard my dog. So I have dogs that were they're helping me through my 2020 experience. And explain to us how we've been in a stuck response mode and what that means, because that was, I feel like a lot of 2020 was that we were kind of stuck in all of these emotions, and due to the isolations, we kind of just really got stuck, because typically you'd have the emotion, and let's say the next day you can see your coworker, talk it through, and then go through it, where 2020 was just right there and we were stuck. So how does that, explain to us how that had an effect on us as well, collectively?
Yeah, so when we talk about anxiety, which a lot of this brings up is that anxiety, and when we talk about being stuck, anxiety gets your adrenaline going, it gets your heart rate going, and that's a lot of what we may have experienced. And so you have fight or flight. Am I going to, face this head on, or am I going to run from my problems? And so that fight or flight, when you're dealing with anxiousness and panic, anxiety is being stuck in that fight or flight response. And so again, your heart rate is up. I myself, I noticed, well, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel my blood pressure
Right.
being high? I don't have high blood pressure. But
Right.
again, it's that anxiety, and anxiety affects, again, all areas, not just your brain,
Right.
but your physical health, your mental health. And so again, like you said, going through everything that we experienced in 2020, it is important to know that once we recognize those feelings, once we recognize where we want to be and how to move forward, we can get out of that anxious feeling.
Right.
And it may come back,
Right, because it's a continuous thing. Just because you got rid of it today doesn't mean it may not come back on a Thursday or sneak back on you, the following week. It's just like you said, having those coping skills. And you said a lot of good things, and I wanted to kind of hit on one, making those connections for the brain, making those new connections, creating those new memories, and using those grounding and alongside the five senses, because you said, our memory and our sight. Now, how does all of those, the senses, kind of come into where we are? Because I think a lot of people, like I said, when you got stuck, you may have got just stuck on, like for me, touch, because I didn't have it. So I crave that so much. For somebody else, it might not have been that. It could have been being able to go outside. It could have been smell. For them, I'm used to going out and walking, and I smell the morning dew every day because I walk my dog, and now you're forced to stay in. So how does all of that, creating those new connections work together as well?
Well, you mentioned Carol Dweck and her book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. And the reason why I love that book is that she talks about the growth mindset.
I like it.
And so we can either have a fixed mindset or we can have a growth mindset. And that fixed in it, and that kind of goes back to having that stuck response. Either it's fixed, like it's all or nothing. I didn't, get that promotion, so I just might as well give up.
Right.
Or I didn't lose those 5 pounds. So I'm just going to throw out this, trying to eat healthy thing.
Right.
And that's fixed mindset. But when we have a growth mindset, we have the understanding that the brain is malleable. The plasticity of the brain is that our brain is constantly making new connections and neural pathways. And when we intake new information, and when we get that growth mindset is that, I didn't get that promotion, but these are the things I need to work on, because the next time it comes around, I'm going to get that promotion.
Right.
And it's interesting because we look at people that have that growth mindset. When we look at Michael Jordan, that didn't make his high school basketball team, and what that took for him to move past that to me, and that's my opinion, to be the greatest of all time.
I love it.
Or, we look at Oprah Winfrey, and, and she was fired from her first reporting job, and how she moved past that to where she is now. And you have a lot of examples of that, a lot of great people out there that learn that perseverance, that learn that grit to move past that. And I think sometimes, like you said, when we get in that stuck response, we have to go back and find, where's our perseverance? Where's my grit? Because this is not it. This, I can move past this. And tomorrow is a new day. And we take those baby steps. I'm a big proponent of making small goals. I'm a list person, and I like to sometimes just put things on my list just so I can cross it off.
Yes, because that's the goal in itself, being able to cross it off.
Yes, and so I can have that small success, because at the end of the day, sometimes you just need that small success, whether it's I woke up today. That's a small, that's a success.
Getting up.
Yes, getting up and moving. And sometimes it's at the end of the day, I made it through another day. And just keeping that in mind is that, when we think about, it's not, we always say it's not what's in our bank account, it's not this, but we have to go back again to relationships. So we have to get, and being thankful again for what we have in our lives. And so when we talk about the grounding technique, and that's something that we use in counseling,
Yes.
like you said, it goes to the five senses. And so we can ask our clients, or we ask our students, what are five things that you see?
Yeah.
What are four things that you feel?
Right.
Three things you hear, two things you smell, one thing that you can taste, and that's in the moment. So,
Right.
whether it's closing your eyes and thinking of, okay, what do I see in this room? What do I feel? What do I hear? And again, that's taking your mind off what you're anxious about or what you're upset about, and then redirecting those thoughts. And then sometimes it's as easy as picking a color and saying, okay, the color blue, how many blue things can I find in this room?
Right.
And again, that's just changing that mindset that you might have. Deep breathing is another thing that helps. So we call it square breathing. So breathing in for 4 seconds.
Right.
And
Squared up.
then hold for, breathe in for 4, hold, and breathe out for 4. Because when we're breathing, what that does, because if we're anxious or we're angry, those deep breaths gets oxygen to our brain.
Right.
Then helps our brain to settle and our heart rate to settle, so that then we can focus on other things and not what we're so anxious about. So there's a lot of great apps out there for individuals, to help with the breathing, to help with meditation or mindfulness, and just kind of directing, what are you intaking in your mind.
Absolutely. And all of those are really great. I love when you said picking out a color and then finding things in the house, because I think for a lot of my gyms, just to call them, we always tend to think it's something so big, and it could be something so small as, like you said, finding 5 things that are blue, 2 things that you smell right now. What are you tasting? It's funny with taste, we say, oh, I have a taste for this all the time, but where's that coming then? The brain is so powerful in making those connections and being really mindful, as you said, of that in the moment. So you can't go outside, but that doesn't mean you can't smell flowers. It's how the brain works. I've smelled flowers inside and I don't have flowers inside. So it's just, like you said, when you take those deep breaths and you allow your mind and your brain to soothe, and you'll find there's just so many more meditation and relaxing tips. And I want to go to, because you brought up so many good tips. So what are some good tips to help us heal? I feel like all this is a really good healing process and attain a better mental health outlook. So I know we mentioned one as far as getting up early, because that's literally one of my check off the boxes. Somebody else might be like, Jewel, I get up at 4 or 5 a.m. anytime. I'm like, no, getting up is a good success victory for me.
It is. And if you are just a morning person, or whether you're a busy parent, sometimes that morning quietness before the household has, are awake, even if it's before your animals are awake, because they're still snuggled up, and just having that moment. Again, it's creating that routine with yourself. To carve out those small moments. We have to carve out moments for exercise. We have to carve out moments, for all those things. So making it a priority to find those peaceful moments, whether it's early in the morning, in the afternoon, or even late at night. What works best for you and what works best for your personality. And that's the biggest thing about counseling or therapy. There are so many things that are out there. And sometimes we have to pick up a few of those things to see if it works for us. And then, try some other things. And what may work for a while, you may have to pick up other things and try later. But again, it's managing the information that you're taking in, whether it's to know that, okay, I need to get off social media because it's a lot of negativity right now, or the news is, really negative right now. So monitoring what information you're getting in and making sure that the information that you're getting is accurate information. Because that can create more anxiety within yourself if you're getting inaccurate information. We go back again to monitoring the stress and anxiety levels and recognizing, okay, today might be a mental health day for me. Like
Right.
I may need to, and that not everybody can do that, unfortunately, but I may need to take the day off. Or
Right.
I may need to tell my family that, even if we're in quarantine, y'all stay on one side of the house today because I need some time.
Right.
Long showers, baths are always helpful.
Always helpful.
And
And
finding out what's that typical stress and atypical
Right.
stress. Again, it's normal to have disruptions because you are stressed, but if it's for long periods of time, making sure that you seek outside help.
Absolutely.
We talked about making connections with their family, with your friends, and having that good support group around you.
Yes, very important.
We talked about social media can be negative, but it can also be positive.
Right.
Finding those positive, there's a lot of positive, either Facebook group or Instagram, things that you can follow to kind of what you put in your mind is kind of like
Right.
eating healthy.
Yes.
If you put positive things in your mind, you're gonna outpour positivity.
Yes.
If you eat healthy, and that is a big thing too, is making sure that you eat healthy.
Yes.
Making
Eating,
sure that you
sleeping.
exercise.
Mhm.
Just again, practicing mindfulness, looking at what's going to really, again, work for you, because it does not work for everybody. And so you may have to try, like I said, there's a lot of great apps out there for mental health.
Right.
Headspace is a great app. Calm is a great app.
Yes.
Um,
Heard of those.
and
Yes.
there's a lot of things that are free out there
Right.
because we know that financially people may be strained. But at the end of the day, we have to be mindful. Again, I want to reiterate this is that, you can try these things, but if you know that there's a deeper anxiety or a deeper depression
Right.
that might be going on, really, seeking out support from a professional.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes we can be so far stuck that we don't, it's hard to see the sunlight.
It is. And I know, you and I have talked before, and a few things that, I got from you was grace and forgiveness and being able to find those things that make you smile, because I know 2020 was rough, and being able to have that grace and forgiveness because we got here collectively. It wasn't this was a Jules problem and that created 2020. It wasn't this
Yes.
person's problem, not playing the blame game. If that person would have did this, I wouldn't have been here. It's just learning to forgive and have, that grace just from your own personal perspective. I think that's definitely true as well.
Yeah. Grace is such a big thing. And I think that that grace has to come from understanding, like, okay, it's being empathetic to somebody to say, I like you said, we got here collectively.
Right.
And so we have to understand that person may just be having a bad day.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And allowing that grace, because we all truly need it. I think in order to move forward, we have to allow some of that grace, so that then we can grab onto that hope,
Yes.
to bring us forward.
Hope.
Because with hope, we are able to have those goals, because goal setting, again, is so important.
It is.
Because if we don't follow those, that a plan, we're kind of just lost in the woods. So it's important to have small goals, long-term goals,
Right.
so that we can move forward through this, like you said, collectively.
Collectively, absolutely. And hope is such a strong motivation. I think sometimes people overlook that, just having the hope to get through today, the hope of tomorrow, the hope of something positive happening today. Hope is such a huge motivation. So, this is our new norm in 2021. There's no magic pill or an automatic cure for what we all experienced collectively through 2020 and continuing to heal globally. I know we mentioned those three things that we already have positively going for us. Hope, perseverance, and resilience. And
Yes.
we could just literally just hold on to those, as small and minute as it may seem. They're so huge when it comes to our mental health, positivity, and our outlook. I always like to ask all of my guests that come in here for an inspirational quote to leave us with. What is a good inspiration quote that you want to tell us?
Um, Really, it goes back to kind of everything I've just said, what we feed in our mind, what we feed in our body. When we focus on the good increases.
Yes.
And if we can think of those things, whether it's writing a positive message on our bathroom mirror, whether it's waking up, like I said, and having in your notes in your phone a positive quote for yourself,
Right.
it is so important to remember that we have to look to the positive, because if we focus on the negative, we're going to stay in the negative.
Absolutely.
So we have to be mindful. Again, focus on the positive. When you focus on the good, there's going to be more good to follow,
I
so
like
that then we can put that good out into the world.
yes,
Um,
out
you know,
there. Good, good,
yes, it's
good.
those simple moments of kindness, whether it's letting somebody go in front of you at the grocery store
Mm,
or whatever it might be. Small acts of kindness leads to bigger kindness. And when we talk about grace, when we talk about perseverance and resilience, like you said, we got here collectively. We can get through this collectively. And we have to look at, like I said, we look back at the past to move forward
yes,
sometimes. And we did this, we all made it. We're
we
here.
made it.
We're in 2021.
Here.
It's a new year. And
Yes.
so one small goal is that I'm going to practice self-care. I'm going to
Yes.
work on making sure that my mental health is good. And I'm going to take in good information in my mind. I'm going to create those new connections,
Yes.
that growth mindset connection, so that I can then persevere in this new year coming up.
Absolutely. Well, Caroline, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure speaking with you. And I know everyone is definitely going to get all of this advice and the tips to create a healthy, positive mental attitude. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Jewel. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So, Jims, we mentioned it, but if you need someone to talk with, please reach out to either of the numbers that we have on the screen below. There's no judgment, there's no embarrassment. There's only someone that's going to be out there to listen to you, and that's what we're here for. Jims, creating healthy financial habits is a lifelong journey. Remember, without change, there'd be no butterflies. That's my favorite saying. Changing habits, changing lives, and changing futures are all up to you. Until next time, let's make 2020 a great year. Take care, everyone.